Alright, so this is the first lesson in Unit 3. Unit 3 will actually be split up into two parts. Your first test is actually going to be over volume, area, surface area, etc. We're going to be talking about area of circles and polygons, volume of prisms, cylinders, pyramids, cones, and spheres. So there's going to be quite a bit in this first part of Unit 3. Now, in the second part of Unit 3, we're actually going to be discussing parts of a circle, things like the arc, the sector, etc. So that will be the second part of Unit 3. So the first thing that we want to do is, in this first lesson, we are going to be working with the area and circumference of a circle. In the next video, we'll be talking about the area of a regular polygon. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Now, here we have a circle here, and just as a refresher, we know that we name a circle by its center. So this would be called circle A because the center is A. So circle radius has a radius of, and the red line here goes from the center to the circle AB. So that right there is our radius. And the blue line you see here is a diameter. It goes from one end of the circle to the other end of the circle and passes through the center. So that would be line CD. Now remember that pi is a ratio of circumference to diameter. So if I were to find the circumference, which is the green circle here, and divide it by the diameter, this blue line, I'm going to get pi. It used to be estimated as the fraction 22/7, but we know it more to be an irrational number, the 3.14159 ... that goes on forever. Okay? So we can actually solve for C in this problem. So if C is being divided by D, all we need to do is multiply both sides by D. Okay, so I'm left with diameter times pi equals circumference. Okay, sometimes we know this. Also, you could say pi times diameter. But remember that diameter is also equal to 2 radii. So instead of having pi times diameter, we could say 2 pi r. We're replacing the d with 2r. Okay, then it's 2 pi times r. 2 times pi times r. Alright, so when you have a circle, okay, this kind of looks like a pizza. And we're going to take each, and we're going to cut it. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slices of this pizza. Okay? So if you'll notice, though, if I cut those 8 pieces and connect a line from here to here, it makes a triangle. So what we can do, so if we were to take each one of these 8 slices and put them like this, 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 piece. So imagine taking the pizza slices and putting them crust up, crust down, crust up, crust down. So what we have here is an estimation of a parallelogram. And what you'll see here in this bottom part of the parallelogram, this line right here, is half of the circumference because it deals with 4 pieces. So we would say instead of 2 pi r, we would say pi r. Okay, then this height right here is the height of the radius. So to find the area of the parallelogram, you would need to multiply pi times r times r. So the area of the parallelogram is pi times r, which is the same as saying pi r squared. So we have that this area of a circle is pi r squared. Now the more pieces that I divide, notice that the parallelogram will get, see how there's a little bit of white space right here and right here? What that is that the parallelogram does not fit into the curved shape. So the more pieces I cut, the closer I become to making that perfect parallelogram and getting the exact answer. Now, the really cool thing is that the more sides a polygon has, the closer it becomes to approaching a circle. It's kind of like in the movie Flatland, or in the book Flatland, the more sides a polygon had, it began to resemble a circle and became a better class or a higher class of person. Okay? Alright, so there's some formulas that we need to be familiar with. We need to know that circumference equals pi times diameter, or also that circumference equals 2 pi r. And for the area of the circle, we need the area equals pi times radius squared. Remember, whenever you see D, it means diameter, and R means radius. Now, these are on your EOC formula sheet, so you don't need to memorize them. Alright, so let's do an example. It says find the area of circle K in terms of pi. So I look at my formulas. This is circumference, there's area. So this is the formula I'm going to use for this problem down here. So area equals pi times r squared. Now, r is my radius, but unfortunately I've been given diameter in this picture. Remember that the radius is going to be half the length of the diameter, so it's going to be 3 inches. So if I type in my calculator 3 squared, I get 9 pi and then inches squared, or square inches. Okay? Now it says to leave it in terms of pi, which means instead of doing 9 times pi in my calculator, I would leave it as 9 pi. Alright, so let's do some more examples. It says find the radius of circle J if the circumference is 6x plus 14 pi meters. Alright, so the first thing that we actually need to do is figure out which formula we're going to use. It says to find the radius if the circumference is. So if I go back to look at this, I notice that circumference, the formula that uses radius is 2 pi r. So circumference equals 2 pi r. I know that the circumference is 65x plus 14 pi, and that's why I'm going to replace c. This goes in for c, and I have 2 pi r. Now I want to solve for r and get the radius by itself, so I divide both sides by 2 pi. Pi over pi is 1, so those cancel out. 2 over 2 is 1, so I'm left with r equals 65x plus 14 over 2. What I can do is write it as a fraction. And that is the radius. Okay? Now it says find the circumference of circle M if the area is 25x squared pi feet squared. So I need to first use the formula for area, which is pi r squared, and solve for r, because once I have the radius, I can plug it into the formula for circumference. So the area is 25x squared pi. Okay? So I'm going to replace a with that information. Now, to get r by itself, the first thing I need to do is divide both sides by pi. Pi over pi is 1, so we can get rid of that. And r squared equals 25x squared. Now, to solve for r here, you have to square root both sides. The square root of r squared is r, the square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of x squared is x. So if the radius is 5x, now I need to find the circumference. So I would use circumference equals 2 pi times r, and r is 5x in our case. So we have 2 times 5 is 10 x pi, and then circumference is our units, just feet, because area would be feet squared. Alright, so it says find the area of circle A in terms of pi when the circumference is 4x minus 6 pi. Now remember that circumference is pi times diameter. Okay? So, let's actually change this. I want to use the formula circumference equals 2 pi r, because the formula for area uses the radius, so I need to solve for the radius. So if c is 4x minus 6 pi, then I set that equal to 2 pi r. In order to get r by itself, you divide by 2 pi. Remember, pi over pi is 1. 2 over 2 is 1. So I get r equals 4x minus 6 over 2. But I can simplify the 4x minus 6 by 4x minus 6 divided by 2 is 2x minus 3. That's like multiplying 1/2 to the binomial 4x minus 6. With that being my radius, I go to area equals pi r squared. My r is actually 2x minus 3 squared. So what I actually have to do is I have to multiply this binomial out. So let's scroll down and do that here. 2x minus 3 squared is the same thing as 2x minus 3 times 2x minus 3. And what I have to do is I have to distribute and multiply each term. Now I use FOIL to help remember to make sure to do all 4 multiplications. So FOIL, search for the first. So I multiply the first terms and I get 4x squared because 2x times 2x is 4x squared. O stands for the outer terms, so 2x times negative 3 will give me negative 6x. I stands for the inner terms, which are negative 3 and 2x. When I multiply them, I get negative 6x. And L stands for last, for negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. Now I can combine these two negative 6 terms, and I get negative 12x. So multiplying those two binomials together gives me 4x squared minus 12x plus 9, which means the area of the circle is 4x squared minus 12x plus 9 pi, and then remember the area is in units squared, so meters squared. Alright, so a pizza making kit contains 3 circular baking stones with the diameters of 24, 36, and 48. Find the area of each stone, rounding your answer to the nearest tenth. So really all I have to do is the area. Now diameter is 24, then radius equals 12. So that'd be pi r squared. So the area of the one with 24 centimeter diameter is 144 pi centimeters squared. That's the first one. And in the second one, 36 is the diameter, so the radius is 18. So area equals pi times 18 squared. So area equals 324 pi centimeters squared. Alright, why don't you take a minute, pause, and try to find the area of the baking stone that has a diameter of 48 centimeters. So I plugged in 24 because 48 is the diameter. I have to divide that by 2 to find the radius. 24 squared is 576. Excuse me. And pi centimeters squared. Alright, why don't you take a minute. Here is a drum kit. The diameters are 10, 12, and 14 inches. Find the circumference of each drum. So take a minute, find the circumference using the correct formula. So using the formula, circumference equals pi times diameter. All I have to do is plug the diameter in front of pi. So for a drum that has a diameter of 10 inches, the circumference is 10 pi inches. For a drum that has a diameter of 12 inches, the circumference is 12 pi inches. And you get it from there. Alright, so that's it for circles and the area, as well as circumference. In our next video, we'll be talking about finding the area of regular polygons. See you then!